Well, welcome back to another week where we sit down and we meet you wherever you are, whether you're watching this on your phone or your computer. This is a moment for encouragement for everybody who's connected to our communities or maybe shares this online. I'm Chad. I work at a church in Lamont, Illinois. I'm with my friend, Denise Frazier-Vizlaka. She's a therapist in Homer Glen, Illinois. This message today is a message of encouragement for all the parents out there. This has been a long run, and you've had your life change dramatically. We get that. I have 4 kids at home. I'm blessed and privileged to be able to go to work. But when I come home, I know that this has been hard for my kids. It's been hard for my wife. So we want to come up with some suggestions and some encouragement to you. Denise, let's start big picture. What would you say to any parent right now? What's the most important thing they need to hear?
Well, they're not alone in this. There is support, like you said, with the church and family. But we're seeing the same kind of 4 umbrella things happening with the kids. Basically, the kids are internalizing, mom and dad can't fix this. It's not like falling down and mom and dad can put a Band-Aid on it or help them with their homework. The kids, we're watching parents, we're suggesting they be careful with phones. It used to be your phone was in the kitchen or the family room. Kids are like little radar. As soon as you're on the phone, they're picking up your anxiety or your fear. And this separation from your little peer groups is really causing a problem because that's how our kids learn how to function in our world, how to make decisions and how to be good friends and how to be have empathy. So every little group is having these same issues, but they're looking different, a little bit different in each group.
Yeah, so that's really interesting, Denise, that I think I hadn't thought about till you said it. We learn how to function in society by watching the people around us. And
Right.
so if we're just our siblings and our parents in a house for 2 months, you have some kids who are trying to act like parents. You have some kids who are
Right.
trying to act like their little siblings. And all the definitions have been lost in this.
Right. Right. Yeah. And a lot of the kids, if they're under a certain age, let's say 5 and under, it's hard for them to access the words.
Yeah.
So a lot of them are acting it out. Um, I'll give you a quick example. One of our close friends, she has 4 boys. The 3 older ones go to school. She's home with a 3-year-old. We call this the unsayable. And his little routine is completely shot. Now his brothers are interfering. So one day he went in the kitchen, picked up the garbage, threw it all over the kitchen floor. He was this garbage. He wanted them back to school and his little life back to normal.
Yeah.
We watch.
Yeah, so as you say, let's start there. We'll go through kind of each segment of development for a child. Let's start pre-K, so 5 and under. That's a great example right there. What 5-year-old and under is experiencing, they used to have the house to themselves or their daycare routine, and now it's cluttered with a bunch of other people, and every day is the same. So what are they experiencing, and then what can we do to help them?
I wrote a few notes on that. Well, first, they're not with their peer groups. They're not getting a chance to be away from mom and dad, where they learn to be a little more, this is their time to be exploring and trying to gain some power, some autonomy. That's why 2-year-olds you hear no all the time. They're trying to figure out that whole situation. They can't play with their friends, and they're losing a lot of that physical and sensory experience that kids need. So you're going to see some regressive behavior, some clinginess, some anger, and it's not always pleasant to look at, but it's because they're frustrated and they don't know how to name the feeling. So
Yep.
we suggest, no, let me, did you want to?
Yeah, so I think that's a great, I heard right there, you want to help them name the feeling. You want to help them get what's inside out, and the way they do that is with their words.
And if they don't have the words, sometimes you can download these online, but also just drawing some faces. Keep it simple. What does a sad face look like? What does a happy face look like? What does an angry face look like? And the kids can even help draw that.
Yeah.
And so if they say it, they can point to the face, and then you know what you're dealing with. Sometimes we don't even need words. They just need a hug, or they just need you to sit down next to them because they're scared.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the things I'm trying to remember as a parent is when I'm frustrated with my kids, I have a tendency, and this, I grew up in a home that was, hey, when you're just acting up, get out of here, get away from me. And sometimes kids need that. They do need the space and separation, but oftentimes kids actually need you to get closer when they're acting up, not get farther away. And so we have to tell ourselves, what is my kid trying to say right now? What are they trying to communicate? And that's hard work.
Well, it's exactly the thing to do. Usually the best thing is to stop what you're doing and everybody just sit down and try to, also activities, any kind of sensory activities like with clay or finger painting, or if you don't want the paint around, go with yogurt. Just something that they can have a tactile experience outside. I'm big, I think you are too.
Yeah,
Get them outside, let them, you said that last time, break some sweat.
absolutely.
Just get outside and kind of unwind, because these are the things they'd be doing with their little peer groups.
Yep.
And music, by the way, is a good thing too.
Yeah. So let's jump up an age level. Let's go to elementary school kids. So kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth, maybe fifth grade. What are they experiencing? Because there's so much development happening there. They just missed the last quarter of their school year. Now
Yeah.
they're homeschooling. What's going on inside their mental, emotional well-being?
A big developmental stage for them is learning how to get along with peers, manage your life in our society, and you do that in relation to your other peers. And they're not able to do that. So you mentioned something last week that one of your boys wants to wrestle.
Yep.
And that kind of puts normal back into their life. Normally, if they were on the playground or they were in a sports group or something, that wrestling or those sports activities teach them limits. How
Hmm.
far do you go before you hurt somebody or before you're upset, or that how to be a good winner, how to be a good loser, all these skills that they need for life. So he wasn't able to do that with his peers. So he found the next best thing was you.
Dad. Yeah.
No offense. But they need situations where they can work out all these things that we normally would learn in your peer group. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, and
um,
what's interesting is when we give those our kids those opportunities, sometimes it goes from they're having a ton of fun with the activity, and all of a sudden it's a meltdown, you
mhm.
know. And what I think is, it's just the truth is our kids are tired. They're mentally and emotionally fatigued. You know, if you do the same activity for 100 times, your muscles get fatigued. Our minds and our emotions get fatigued too. And our kids, just the bandwidth is lower. So maybe my encouragement to parents is recognize the bandwidth is less, the fuse is shorter. We need to all give each other more grace there.
That's true. And homeschooling is getting old. The
Yeah.
parents are getting, the kids are getting tired. So we're trying to mix it up a little bit, keep it a little shorter, be realistic about how long a kid can sit to do their work. And for parents, good parents, I mean, these are good parents. It's like one more job they have to do. And not, being an educator takes a lot of training.
Yep.
Not, we're not always teaching our kids, but now it's another job for the parents. So um, that's another issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to see if there's anything else.
One cool
Oh,
thing I'm seeing is with those elementary school age kids, their imaginations are really finding new life in the pandemic because they have to have imaginary friends and imaginary activities. And so if you're a parent, you're really struggling, one activity is just invite them, send your kid off to their room or to the backyard and ask them to create something. Give them 20 things out of the recycling can and some tape and glue and paint, and just let them go and have them come back, and whatever they create, celebrate it. That's a good practice for your kids, just to let them be kids again, because they're missing this separation between school and play and home and friends. So if you're looking for something to do, there's something you do.
that's perfect. That was right on my list. And I think it's okay to share with your kids too, your stories, the times you've been disappointed or the times, things didn't go really well for you. It's a time for families to be close. Sometimes it's just sitting next to the kids, reading a story, um, believe it or not, not always on screenshots or screen time, but just sitting with them, sitting on the porch, having a picnic.
Yeah. Yeah, I know one of the things I'm feeling convicted of, I think it's the Lord speaking to me a little bit, is my kids every day each of them ask me multiple times, Dad, can we do this? Dad, can you play this with me? And I'm working harder than I've worked in a long time because of the pandemic. I'm doing different things. My schedule is kind of upset and I'm fatigued too. And so there's guilt and shame I feel as a parent sometimes, and I have to be able to balance both. I need to take care of myself, and while my kids are awake, I need to give them the attention and the specific focus they need. And so my encouragement to the parents who are watching, you're not alone. We're all trying to balance this, and it's a hard balance.
And we don't have, even for parents, that break where kids went to school.
Yep.
That was an automatic separation. So, and also I think for parents, it doesn't mean we have to come up with an idea of what to do 24/7. It's okay for kids to be a little bored. And like you said, then give them a bunch of creative materials to do. Also job, believe it or not. This is again how our kids learn. We start giving them little jobs to do. That helps them learn how to be a good dad, a good mom, a good
Yep.
partner in life.
Yeah.
So give jobs that makes them feel good about themselves.
Yeah, and most kids won't watch this video, so they won't realize that you're the one who told them they need chores, so they won't be mad at you, Denise. They'll be mad at their parents. So let's go up in age group. Let's talk about adolescence. Okay, we're gonna go middle school and high school. Last group we'll talk about college and kind of young adults who are at home yet, but middle school, high school, what's going on for them? These are the groups, when I talk to parents right now, this is the hardest group.
Well, it is, and partly because they've lost a lot of their markers. They need their peers. This is absolutely how they start forming their groups, how they're going to make choices with friends, careers, things like that. And graduation, for example, that's a big moment of acknowledging their hard work, the next step in their life, and they can't go through graduation or those proms or all those activities. So that is becoming very depressing. And then sometimes you see them just breaking out and getting together in a group. It's not because they're bad kids, it's because they're just so frustrated that they can't be with their peers. They can't mark these celebrations. Normally they'd be going to 15 different graduation parties.
Yep. Yeah, and they're they're the most dependent on peers, and peer pressure is a good and a bad thing. But peer pressure does help them do their homework. It does help them go to class on time. And now the teacher is getting a hold of parents and saying, hey, you're not doing the stuff you're supposed to be doing for class, because there's not that peer support. And so parents who are trying to give that support, man, parents are stuck right there because you feel like I'm trying to lift up my kid, but I'm also trying to hold them accountable. And parents feel like they can't win with adolescents right now.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of support in that, because generally if a parent says you need to get your homework done, the teacher said you need to get your homework done, the school administrator says you need to get your homework done, and they get good grades, it's all a good reinforcement.
Yeah.
But you're right, the parents are kind of alone in this. And frankly, some of this work, I'll give you math, for example. I wasn't terrible in math, it was good. But this new way of doing things is frustrating parents.
Yep.
We can't always help as grandparents or parents, because it's a new way of teaching, new way of learning. So I think that's, they're also losing ways, for example, to get jobs. They want to learn to drive, for example, when they're 15 and get ready and save money, and they're not able to have that experience.
Yeah. So I think what I'm just thinking about what you're saying, Denise, and trying to say, well, what would I say to a parent of an adolescent? I think what we could do, just like those younger students, they need to develop their words to get what's out there. Oftentimes it's inside, they don't want to talk about it. But to maybe identify what's the milestones that my kids should be in the midst of right now. Maybe they're learning to drive, or maybe it was a transition from 8th grade to high school, and they're really nervous about that. And now they don't have that time to prep and see their friends and get ready for high school. So the next time they get back to school, they're in a whole new school building. Right. Identify the milestone and then work with that student. What can we do to help you feel more prepared?
I think that's a very good way. And when all else fails, just sit down
Mm,
and questions, but then listen. Kids, sometimes when you ask a kid, what are your thoughts? How do you think we could do it? You're amazed at the things they come up with. And that helps us move in a direction. If there's areas they've been interested in, they can't do. Again, I remember you saying the kids couldn't join T-ball. A lot of these kids can't do their sports activities or chess club. So it kind of do it in house. Kid teaches you how to play chess. Role playing is really fun too for the kids when they're getting bored with schoolwork. They're the teacher, you're the student,
yeah,
and it helps them develop empathy, and also it can be fun,
yeah,
you know. And they
absolutely.
have, right.
Yeah, I really like that, Denise. I think it's flipping it around and letting the kids. So in the adolescence in between, they're not quite an adult yet. They're not a kid anymore. They're trying to practice autonomy and responsibility. So hey, why don't you take the lead on this? What do you want to cook for supper tonight? Um, I'll help you, but you take the lead. And you're never going to have a season like this where you have as much time to practice growing up with a kid.
It's really true. And then, you know, it is really good to grab onto the blessing. I was thinking of, where did I write that down? Deuteronomy 6, 4-9, where we share our faith and our words with the kids and how that manifests then in our behavior. And it's amazing when we give kids lead, give kids the opportunity to take a lead. It's surprising how they step up
Yep.
if we back away a little
Yep.
bit.
Yeah.
Encourage.
Yeah. That's a great point, to let them be responsible.
You know, and as much as we try, we can't replace their peer group because we are the parents or the grandparents. So anytime safely kids can, you know, sit at the end of the driveway and their friend can sit at the end of the yard or something just to say hi, but safely, you know, I'm not talking, that helps too, for them to just see there's peers out there,
Yeah.
cousins. Yeah.
So let's touch real quickly on that last group. This is young adults, college students who came home from school early. They're home for the summer. Summer came a couple months early. Or they're young adults who they have a job, but they're in between. Or maybe they can't find work right now. They had work and it's furloughed or stopped because of the situation. Tough spot for them to be in. Tough spot for their parents. They thought they'd let them go. The kid thought they were free. Now they're back home. Yeah, so this is more coping here. How do you help parents cope?
We have to remember that when the older kids come home, they're not children.
Mm,
It helps them know that it's kind of like first sitting down and getting some ground rules for the family. These are different ground rules. These are like being roommates.
yep.
Not You don't have to do their laundry and cook their food and micromanage them all the time. And for them, really asking and listening, asking how do we want to organize this, what jobs need to be done in the home, empathizing with them. A lot of these kids are really stressed. They took out student loans and they were hoping to get a job and get work so they could pay their loans off and begin their lives. And dating is hard.
Yeah. Super hard.
Dating is really hard. So their life is stalled a bit.
Yeah.
And listening is really important. I know I say that a lot, but it really is important to just listen to their frustrations and also listen to their solutions. A lot of times kids have more thoughts about solutions than we realize.
Mm.
So,
Well, I'm sensing a theme here, and we've gone quite long today because it's just been such a good conversation. But I think the big takeaway I'd encourage you to get from what Denise just said today, and I'm taking away, is stop and sit next to them. Whether they're a child who's 3 years old, 13 years old, or 23 years old, that they're a young adult, stop, sit down, and be present. You don't have to say words right away. Truthfully, your words probably can't fix it. But what we can do is be present. And you're never going to have a captive audience like you have right now in your students and your children and your young adults. So let's take advantage of just having a great time being together, because they're learning right now how to get through the hardest moments that will come a decade or two from now when they're older.
true. Maybe the last thing I can say is when you do sit down, it doesn't mean right away they're going to start talking. We need
Yeah.
plenty of time. So it might mean you're just going to sit there for a bit and eventually they come.
Yeah.
sit down too.
That's
So
really good.
great.
That's so good, Denise. I'm always grateful to hear from you. I leave this call every week and I go home and I'm a better parent, I'm a better husband and a better person. So I'm so thankful for your generosity this time. I know others are too. If you're watching this, you have ideas for us to talk about, please send it, post it on the comment section on this Facebook thread. Next week, we're going to go the next level. We're going to talk about how to keep a healthy marriage in a pandemic. Many of our marriages are having the natural strain of doing this for 8 weeks. We're going to help you out. So we look forward to talking to you then. Thanks, everybody. Always good to be with you. Be well.